Video number 12 plus. Anthropomorphism in science. Hello everyone. Even as a small child, I was convinced that all animals have their own point of view on the world, sometimes very different from ours, and that in some cases their representation of reality is in fact better. Anthropomorphism in science obviously begins with what Jean Piaget called the magical mentality, a trend to attribute intentions to objects or natural forces to explain phenomena that one does not understand. That way of thinking was criticized as early as the 18th century by the encyclopedist von Holbach. The term anthropomorphism, unlike humanism, therefore has a negative connotation. Today, we no longer attribute intentions to inanimate objects, but a tenacious residue of anthropomorphism, or even anthropocentrism, still manifests itself in many scientific fields, not only in teaching, but even in research, including the so-called hard sciences, such as physics. We are going to see that this intellectual tendency continues to influence the choices that are made by the most serious scientists concerning the interpretation of observations and experiments, including in areas where the whole mankind is reduced to the rank of a dust grain without much importance, such as cosmology. Why criticize anthropomorphism and its cousin, anthropocentrism? For two reasons. It is most often unconscious and drives scientific research into biased or even erroneous directions. Let us see that in some concrete examples. You will certainly find many others by yourself. Example 1. The animal reproduction. It is impossible that you did not at least once come across one of these popular articles claiming that the animals of such or such species favor the partners that will give them the best offsprings. Of course, they suggest that it's unconscious, they refer to natural selection, etc. What an intelligence and what a strategy deployed to reproduce themselves by beings that we consider to be rather limited. We should not forget that even primitive men were most likely unaware of the relationship between the sexual activity and its consequences due to the long time gap between conception and birth. And by the way, natural selection works by elimination, not by choice. Reasoned choice of a partner equal anthropomorphism. Example 2. The Big Bang. It is convenient for us to think that the universe had a beginning and will have an end. The religious story of creation was obviously pure anthropomorphism. But was it so necessary to keep the same belief in cosmology? The fact that we die does not imply that the universe itself is mortal. The Big Bang may have actually existed, but it's damned anthropomorphic as a concept. Example 3. The exobiology. In the 60s, I was surprised to learn that some scientists, gathered in conferences, had claimed repeatedly that an intelligent extraterrestrial being must absolutely have a head, 2 eyes, 4 limbs, stand upright, and be between 1 and 2 meters high. What a lack of imagination, and also lack of rigor, because it is obviously impossible to prove this kind of thing. Today, it is not much better. to search for extraterrestrial life, we search for water and carbon. Where's the proof that some form of life couldn't be based on a completely different chemistry? Example 4. The stars. It has been decided that they are born in galaxies by the gravitational collapse of clouds of gas or dust, according to the established terminology. So, the whole galaxy was just a big cloud of gas to begin with? Hard to believe. And if it were the opposite? The stars formed first, concentrating in globular clusters, and then in galaxies afterwards? No, it's more comfortable to imagine the star baby being born surrounded by parents like humans. Anthropomorphism again. Example 5. The stars again. There are several types according to their mass, but the mass evolves. Here, it's the cult of personality that skews the perception. We don't want to think that our favorite red or blue giants, with their pretty names, could just be the result of the fusion of white dwarfs mixed with all the material around them. So what? Gravity only works as we've decided it should? Cult of personality equal anthropomorphism, again and again. Example 6. The anthropic principle and the so-called pyramid of complexity. It took an observer to talk about the universe, and that us. According to Bergson, the universe is a machine for the making of gods. Is that why asteroids move away from Earth? So they don't hurt us, to spare the chosen species? Sounds a little weird, right? And if we happen to suffer the same fate as dinosaurs, it could be because an evolved species is ready to replace us, to comment on the beauty of creation? Reassuring, isn't it? The world is well done. But here we are going straight to the final cause. It seemed to me that in this case we leave science to fall into belief. What do you think? Conclusion. Where is the problem? The point is that any complex phenomenon, particularly at large scale, involving a very large number of parameters, some of which may even be unknown or hidden, generally has an infinity of possible interpretations, most of which are beyond the reach of our imagination, limited by the history of our individual or collective experiences. By lack of imagination, there is a risk that we choose the interpretation closest to what we already know, when actually we know almost nothing. The physical theories are only choices of approximate simulations of reality. They often make it possible to predict real phenomena other than those who led to the theory, but that does not prove anything, because it will be the case of any simulation, no matter whether it is faithful or very far from reality. Just look for the predictions that stick with the theory, and there will always be some. Science is wonderful, but we shall never be too cautious in the choice of our interpretations. The history of science was for a long time that of rising towards an increasingly rational way of thinking, which distanced itself from individual preferences of an emotional or aesthetic nature in order to only accept, as Descartes said, what can be proved. I hope that in modern science, which is becoming more and more complex, we are not going back downhill by confusing models that are always limited and rather local with a global reality that will probably always lie beyond our understanding, with or without computers.